Hello everyone, a very good morning to all. So with this video on the P block elements, we'll be starting with the compounds of group 14. So we'll be discussing about hydrides, oxides and the halides. So starting with the hydrides, for group 14, all the members form covalent hydrides except for lead. Only lead is the one which will form ionic hydrides. So stability and ease of formation decreases from carbon to lead. Carbon has the maximum, hydrides of carbon are maximum stable and they are most easy to synthesize in comparison to the other hydrides of group 40. So now coming to the hydrides of carbon, as we all know that all the hydrocarbons are the hydrides of carbon. They can be alkanes, alkenes, alkynes, aromatic hydrocarbons. Whole organic chemistry is based upon the hydrides of carbon. So we are very much familiar with the hydrides of carbon. We are not getting into the details as it is very much covered in your organic chemistry syllabus. So jumping directly to the hydrides of silicon, the hydrides of silicon are called as silanes. General formula is SiNH2n plus 2, which is corresponding to the alkanes. If we replace silicon with carbon, we'll get the class of alkanes. So these can be straight chain or branch chain where n varies from 1 to 8 for silanes. So how to name these silanes? So if it is based upon the number of silicon atoms present. So if silicon is 1, it is monosilane. If silicon is 2, it is disilane. If silicon is 3, it is trisilane. If it is 6, it is going to be hexasilane. Also, very few analogs of alkenes and alkyne counterparts for the silanes where carbon has been replaced with silicon are known. They are known, but very few are there. Now coming to the preparation of silanes. So silanes are generally prepared by the acid hydrolysis of magnesium silicide. So magnesium silicide, we could synthesize it by the direct reaction of electropositive metal with silicon. So they will get the formation of magnesium silicide. When these are reacted with acids, or we can say they undergo hydrolysis, acid hydrolysis, we'll get a mixture of silanes. And from here, we'll have to carry out the low temperature fractional distillation to separate these out. If we want to synthesize these silanes in pure form, then we will have to use their halides, and we can reduce their halides using these strong reducing agents, and we'll get the corresponding silane. If we are using monohalide, then if we are using this silane, that is this halide, that is SiCl4, we'll get the monosilane. If we are using Si2Cl6, then we'll get the disilane. So also any reducing agent can be used for the preparation for the reduction of any of the halide derivative of the silanes to prepare the corresponding silane. So this way we can obtain the pure silanes. Now coming to the properties, these silanes are colorless gases. These can be volatile liquids, or some higher members are even stable liquids. So their physical state is, we can say it is improving, it is shifting from gaseous to volatile liquid, then to liquids, as we are increasing the value of N. These are toxic with characteristic odor, and their melting points and boiling points increase as we are moving from N is equal to 1 to 8. As the melting points and boiling point are increasing, or we can also see that from the physical state, that initial members are having physical state. They are in gaseous state, they exist in gaseous state, then the other higher members exist as volatile liquids, and further higher members exist as stable liquids. So they are soluble in organic solvents. The thermal stability decreases with increases, and with increase in N, thermal stability decreases. That means they are more prone to decompose at similar temperature, at same temperature where the lower silanes are stable. Now coming to the chemical properties, firstly we'll be discussing about the action of air or oxygen on these silanes. So these form explosive mixture with air and oxygen. This is the reaction which is representation here for silane is reacting with oxygen. We'll get the formation of SiO2, that is corresponding dioxide is obtained, but this mixture is highly explosive in nature. Pure silanes do not react with dilute acids and pure water. and so we can say they are stable in acids and water, but they undergo rapid hydrolysis even in the presence of trace amount of alkalis. So if alkalis are present there, they will undergo hydrolysis and will get the formation of corresponding silicates, and large amount of hydrogen gas is going to be released from there. Next is action of halogens. When we treat these silanes with the halogens, these form explosive mixture. This reaction is highly exothermic. We need to control the reaction. They undergo substitution reaction. Halo substituted silanes are obtained, mono substituted, di substituted, tri substituted, and also all of the hydrogens can be replaced with the halogens. But we need to control this reaction. If with bromine, if we want to produce the bromo substituted silanes, what we'll have to do, we'll have to carry out the reaction at minus 80 degrees Celsius to avoid the formation of explosive mixture. So this is how we can carry out the halogenation of these silanes. Next is action of hydrogen halide. So with hydrogen halide, these undergo reaction with hydrogen halide to give corresponding halo derivatives. That is, we can say tetrahalosilane will be obtained, but the presence of corresponding Al2X6 and a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius is the condition for carrying out this reaction. So with HF, this gives all the hydrogens will be replaced with the corresponding halogen which we are using. Next is we can use these silanes as reducing agent. They can easily reduce silver nitrate to corresponding metal, pure metal, that is silver. With the release of, we'll get the formation of HNO3. So these silanes can be used as reducing agent. Also, an interesting reaction is given by these silanes, that is the hydrosilation reaction, which is very much similar to that of hydroboration reaction, where we treated alkenes with the boranes, where we get the substitution of, get the addition of boranes along over here over the alkene. So here this is similar reaction. This is also called as Spear's reaction. Here it is hydrosilation. Whenever there is SiH group is present, then we can have hydrosilation reaction. We can get the addition of hydrogen and corresponding anionic part, that is SiCl3, across the double bond. And the condition is the presence of catalyst here. The catalyst is platinum catalyst, which is, to be exact, it is chloroplatinic acid, which is used in this reaction. Now coming to the structure, this silane is having tetrahedral structure, or we can say these silicon atoms are tetrahedrally surrounded by 4 hydrogens. If we look at the, if we compare this structure with CH4, then in case of CH4, carbon is slightly more electronegative in comparison to hydrogen, but silicon is electropositive in comparison to hydrogen. So it is prone to nucleophilic attack. If it is electropositive, nucleophiles can easily attack on silicon. Also, there is a presence of vacant d orbitals with silicon. So it can extend its coordination from 4 to 6. So it can accept electron pairs from incoming nucleophiles. So it will permit the formation of intermediate compounds with low activation energy. Now coming to the hydrides of lower members, that is germanium, tin, and lead. So hydrides of germanium are called as germanes. The general formula is GeNH2n, which is corresponding to alkanes, which N varies from 1 to 5. These are generally straight chain compounds, colorless gases, or they can be volatile liquids. Melting points and boiling point increases as we increase N, just like silanes. So these are less flammable in comparison to silane, and they are volatile in comparison to silane. So they do not react with water's acid. They are stable in, they do not undergo acid hydrolysis or base hydrolysis, but they can be prepared by using the strong reducing agent in the presence of dry ether from the halides, tetrahalides. So these can be obtained. Hydrides of tin are called as tennanes. These are generally unstable. Only the SNH4 is stable. This can also be prepared by treating strong reducing agent with corresponding tin tetrachloride. Next is the plumbane. This is highly unstable, difficult to prepare. This can be prepared only in trace amount. So not much studies are available for these higher members, that is germanium, tin, and lead. Next we have oxides. So for group 14, we have monoxides also and dioxides also. The only member is carbon, which is having additional oxides, but these oxides, that is C3O2, C5O2, C12O9, these are not very much stable, so very less studied. We'll be discussing here just the monoxides and the dioxides. Now, starting with the monoxide, first we are discussing the carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide can be prepared from carbon by burning carbon in limited supply of oxygen. We'll get the formation of carbon monoxide. In pure form, it can be obtained by heating formic acid with sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid will act as dehydrating agent. It will extract out water from the formic acid and will get the formation of carbon monoxide. This is the structure where there are 4 valence electrons with carbon and 6 valence electrons with oxygen, and will get the formation of double bond here. It is colorless, odorless gas, which is very toxic. So it burns with blue flame. If we burn a flame in the presence of carbon monoxide, we'll get the appearance of blue color in the flame. So its toxicity can be the idea of its toxicity can be obtained from its high affinity for combining with hemoglobin. So what it will do is, whenever we have the atmosphere of carbon monoxide around us, what will happen is, as hemoglobin binds with oxygen and we can inhale oxygen when hemoglobin binds the oxygen, so it takes up oxygen from the atmosphere. It gets to supply the oxygen to different parts of the body. But if carbon monoxide is present, hemoglobin is having more affinity for carbon monoxide in comparison to that of oxygen. It will bind with hemoglobin and it will enter into our body, and it will suffocate us, and it can lead to death also. It is sparingly soluble in water. It is used as fuel. Whenever we treat it with oxygen, we'll get the formation of carbon dioxide, and this is highly exothermic reaction. So this reaction, which produces large amount of energy, can be used as a fuel. So also it is a important part of the industrial fuel. It is mixed with different other gases, and we'll get the industrial fuels that we can obtain water gas if we take the mixture of CO plus H2. It is producer gas when we take the mixture of CO and N2. It is coal gas if we take the mixture of these 4 gases, that is carbon monoxide, hydrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide. Now, it is also used as strong reducing agent because it is having high affinity to get oxidized, to get converted to carbon dioxide. So it can reduce various metal oxides to corresponding metal. So it is used as reducing agent for the obtaining of various pure metals in the metallic form. These can convert metal oxide into the pure metallic form. It can also reduce PdCl2 to platinum, palladium. Iodine, I2O5 can be reduced to iodine. It reacts with Cl2 to produce a more toxic gas, that is highly toxic gas, that is phosgene. So this gas was used in World War I as poisonous gas, as bioweapon it was used. Also, it combines with sulfur to give the formation of carbonyl sulfide. This is another important gas which is having industrial applications. So this forms, carbon monoxide forms carbonyl compounds with transition metals. This is a class of different metal carbonyl compounds. This is a whole new, we can have this topic is very wide. We can have a whole book on the topic metal carbonyls. So to mention here, just we have the mention of metal carbonyls so far in yours, as far as your syllabus is concerned. So just that you just have to memorize that these carbon monoxide forms carbonyl compounds, metal carbonyls with transition metals. So here is example, this nickel carbonyl, the nickel tetracarbonyl, iron forms pentacarbonyl, and manganese exist in the form of MnCO5 as dimer with giving Mn2CO10. Now coming to the monoxides of other members. So monoxides of other members can be prepared from the dioxides itself by treating the corresponding group 14 element in the presence of dioxide at high temperature or sometimes under vacuum. So these can be prepared. Not much is there to discuss about these monoxides. Now coming to the dioxides, firstly we'll be discussing about carbon dioxide. It can be prepared by burning of coal or carbon in excess of oxygen will get the formation of carbon dioxide. Also on small scale, it can be prepared by the action of dilute acids on the carbonates. So calcium carbonate has been shown here. We have treated it with dilute acid, that is HCl. What we'll get is carbon dioxide. On industrial scale, it is produced as byproduct of some major processes. It is produced in the fermentation process. Also, it is produced in the manufacturing of lime, where lime was prepared from limestone. By heating it at 825 degrees Celsius, we'll get the formation of lime, and the other byproduct which is formed there is carbon dioxide. It is also produced when we produce hydrogen for the manufacturing of ammonia, which this reaction is called as water gas shift reaction. So this is how also it can be produced from heating of sodium bicarbonate and further drying the gas obtained by passing over H2SO4, which will act as the hydrating agent, which will just absorb the moisture present in carbon dioxide obtained here. So carbon dioxide is a colorless gas. It has faint, pungent odor. It is slightly acidic, dissolves in water to give carbonic acid, which is present in soft drinks. So with alkalis, as it is acidic gas, it gives the corresponding salts. It will give the formation of two types of salts, carbonates and bicarbonates. So it is an important raw material for photosynthesis. This is how the photosynthesis takes place. Glucose is obtained from photosynthesis, and also oxygen, which we use to inhale, is obtained from the photosynthesis reaction carried out by plants in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Also, it is further obtained that carbon dioxide is present in our exhale. At 4% of carbon dioxide is present. Now coming to the carbon dioxide applications of carbon dioxide. So it is used in the manufacture of urea. When we treat urea at 185 degrees Celsius and 200 atmosphere pressure with ammonia and carbon dioxide, we'll get the formation of urea. Next important point about carbon dioxide is its solid form. So solid CO2 is very important. It is used as refrigerant. How we obtain it? We can apply pressure of 50 to 60 atmosphere. We can liquefy it. So this liquefied carbon dioxide is allowed to quickly evaporate and will get the formation of solid carbon dioxide, which is also called as dry ice, and it is used as refrigerant. It is available in market under the commercial name of dry coal. It is very much used and very important because it directly sublimes. It doesn't leave behind any residue. So that is why it is used. And the mixture of carbon dioxide or solid carbon dioxide and ether, this can generate a further lower temperature, that is of temperature of minus 108 degrees Celsius can be obtained. So this is used for the liquefaction of other gases, and this is also used for the transport of perishable foodstuff. Now coming to the second member, that is silicon, dioxide of silicon, which is called as silicon dioxide. This can be obtained by the hydrolysis of corresponding tetrachloride. It is insoluble in water and other acids except for HF, with which it will give us the formation of corresponding tetrafluoride. So it is slightly acidic. It will react with alkalis to give sodium silicate. These are the preparation of dioxide of germanium and tin. These can be directly prepared by treating pure group 14 element with oxygen. Also, PbO2 can be obtained by electrolytic oxidation of lead. Now, out of these dioxides, these two, that is carbon dioxide and silicon dioxides, are acidic, and rest others are amphoteric. PbO2 is also used as strong oxidizing agent because here it is in +4 oxidation state, and due to inert pair effect, the lead, which is the last member of this group, last stable member of this group, so this tries to exist in its +2 oxidation state, so prefers to exist in its +2 oxidation state. So it tends to reduce its oxidation state by oxidizing the others and itself get reduced. So this is the oxidizing action which has been shown here. So here lead is getting converted from +4 oxidation state to +2 oxidation state. So now coming to the structure, this is the structure of carbon dioxide. It exists as linear discrete molecules, but with double bonds present in carbon and oxygen. But the silicon is having, and other members are also having 3D network where silicon to oxygen or other members to oxygen, single bonds are present. Now, why this double bond type of or linear structure is not feasible for silicon? Because of the large size of silicon and other members, they do not exhibit the double bonds, and also this 3D network is not possible for carbon dioxide because there are double bonds present. So tetravalency is satisfied here with the double bonds and here with the 3D network. Now coming to the halides. So halides, the most common halides which are common and mostly studied are tetrahalides. So tetrahalides are known for all the elements. Carbon is all the halides are tetrahalides are known for carbon. So firstly we'll be discussing with CF4. So it is highly stable, exceptionally unreactive. It is having a melting point of minus 183 degrees Celsius, which resembles properties of which resembles to that of methane. So it can be prepared by the fluorination of silicon carbide. Will get the formation of SiF4 and CF4. Also, if we treat carbon dioxide with SF4, we'll get the formation of CF4. At industrial scale, it is obtained from chlorofluorocarbon, that is freon, that is difluoromethane. With, if we carry out its fluorination, we'll get the formation of CF4. Next is CCl4. It is an important, common and important lab, or we can say industrial solvent. It is prepared from these two reactions are there for its preparation. So the easier one is the chlorination of methane in the presence of reduced cuprous chloride will get the formation of CCl4. Coming to its physical properties, it is colorless, volatile, liquid, insoluble in water, but is soluble in alcohols and ether. It is generally chemically inert, but under drastic condition, it reacts with steam to obtain phosgene, which is the poisonous gas which was used in World War I as bioweapon. Now, coming to its reduction, it will undergo reduction in the presence of moist iron. It will get converted to chloroform, which is another important solvent. So this CCl4 undergoes substitution reaction. Fluorosubstituted products are obtained, which are called as freons. So it will give a substitution reaction with HF in the presence of catalyst SbFCl4, which is further obtained by treating SbCl5 with HF. So this is how we can obtain the freons. These freons are very important by the point of view that these are used as refrigerants and aerosol propellants. So these, the most common one is dichloro-difluoromethane. Next one is CBr4. It is a pale yellow solid, less stable other than higher members. Other higher members. It is prepared from the bromination of methane. And CI4 is bright red crystalline solid. This is least stable. Now coming to silicon halides, the most common one is SiCl4. It is obtained from the it undergoes hydrolysis to obtain silicic acid, but here this is an important reaction that SiCl4 reacts with water to give silicic acid, but CCl4 doesn't react with water. Now, why this happens? This is because of the presence of vacant d orbitals with silicon. Due to the presence of vacant d orbitals, nucleophilic attack is possible on SiCl4, but it is not possible for the case of CCl4. So that is why it is not converted to corresponding acid, and silicon tetrachloride can be converted to silicic acid. Also, as these tetrahalides of silicon or higher members are Lewis acid in character due to the presence of vacant d orbitals, so these can react with any of the nucleophiles to give these type of complexes. So these tetrahalides of germanium, tin, lead, these are known but are not much stable and not much studied. Now coming to the lower halides, Trihalides are the ones which are where one halogen has been replaced with hydrogen. So chloroform, SiHCl3, GeHCl3 are the trihalides. Coming to the dihalides, for dihalides we can say the higher members are much more stable in +2 oxidation state. So dihalides of lead and tin will be more stable in comparison to carbon, silicon, and germanium, as stability of +2 oxidation state increases with it as we move down the group. Now, for their preparation, we can prepare them by treating with the group 14 member itself, treating tetrahalides with them at high temperature. So this way these can be obtained. Next, we have tin fluoride or tin chloride, where dichloride. These can be obtained by heating tin or tin oxide with HF or HCl. This is an important part of which is used as fluoride in toothpaste, that is SNF2. This exists as crystal structure. This exists as tetramer, which is an 8-membered puckered ring type of structure. So SnCl2 undergoes partial hydrolysis to give basic chloride. Also, these dihalides are also act as Lewis acid. They combine with the nucleophiles to give these kind of complexes. So also here I have again mentioned that +2 oxidation state is more stable for lead because of the inert pair effect. So that is it about the halides, oxides, and the hydrides. So in the next video, we'll be discussing about some important compounds of group 14 elements, that is fullerenes, carbides, and the fluorocarbons. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day.